The way we think dictates so much of our experience of life. Expand beyond conventional ways of thinking through powerful thought experiments in my latest book, The Art of Living an Absurd Existence. The link is in the description. Death, the most terrifying of evils, is nothing to us, because as long as we exist, death is not present. Whereas when death is present, we do not exist. It is nothing to those who live, since to them it does not exist, and it is nothing to those who have died, since they no longer exist. Epicurus. Some of us might think about death often, others of us less so. Some of us might not think about it much at all. Regardless of how much or how little one might think about death, it is of course, nonetheless, the fate of us all. If we can think about anything, then we are alive, and if we are alive, then we will die. To adapt the philosopher René Descartes' famous cogito, I think, therefore I die. Found in the relationship between thinking and death is something far more unsettling than merely thinking's implication of death. Thinking not only implies death, but death implies a strange and somewhat terrifying paradox about thinking. In all likeliness, nothing comes after this life for us. The term nothing here being used as a sort of proxy for what is beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond concepts, and beyond subjective conscious experience. Of course, it is possible that something comes after this life. It is possible that there is an experience of something, and that we go somewhere. Perhaps, somehow, there remains some sort of continuity in our subjective experience and perception. But again, in all likeliness, if we are going to grant any faith in physical reality and our scientific understanding of that physical reality, then, from the perspective of a subjective experiencer who exists as a result of the physical mechanisms of one's brain, when one's brain, or a sufficient proxy of one's brain, no longer functions or exists, then there is no longer a subjective individual, no experience at all. When one thinks of death, therefore, what is one actually thinking about? How can one conceive of the idea of the absence of not only all ideas, but the very capacity to ideate? To contemplate one's death is to project oneself forward not only in time, but in form, to the form and shape of nothingness. This, of course, is entirely nonsensical. Thus, death is not only unknown to us, but it is unknowable. The author, Eugene Thacker, argues in his book, In the Dust of This Planet, that human subjective thought invariably reaches limits and incongruencies with relation to accessing and comprehending the true nature of reality, or the world in itself and the world without us. More specific to Thacker's argument is that when thought reaches and realizes its limit, and one observes the sort of shadow or outline of an object or phenomenon that exceeds one's ability to comprehend it, because its very nature belies one's own, one experiences a kind of torment and horror. When referring to this sort of juxtaposition of the limits of philosophy embodied in mythical horror, Thacker writes, "The human can only understand the human by transforming it into an object to relate to, while the human can only relate to the objective world itself by transforming the world into something familiar, accessible, or intuited in human terms. This leaves one avenue open, which is the perspective of the non-human itself. As thinking, embodied beings, unable to fully detach ourselves from the subject-object relations that constitute us, this is undoubtedly a paradoxical move. In fact, it is doomed from the start." Of course, death is an explicit, tangible event representative of the paradox and limit of thought. It is perhaps the most explicit and tangible manifestation. It is not merely the loss of everything we own and everyone we know, but also everything we know and feel, and the very capacity to know and feel. Thus, by attempting to apply our subjectivity and processes of thought to it, the truth of it dissolves away. We can know of death, but we can never know death. It is a doorway that we all must enter, but can never look into. This, although perhaps obvious sounding, is quite puzzling and unsettling when one truly attempts to make sense of the existential conundrum of death. It is no wonder that religious and spiritual ideologies have and continue to fervently paint over the door of mortality with consoling, beautiful imagery. Humanity has long been attempting to trick itself into believing that what can be painted on the exterior of the door can represent what's inside, but it cannot. Even if there is some material within the brain, or universe more broadly, that is beyond our comprehension, and one might ascribe a sort of soul-like nature to, it is still material that follows materialistic principles of the universe, and it will still seemingly no longer be in the form required for its subjective function when the body was alive, when the body is dead. what creates a mind and a subjective sense of self appears to so obviously require a sustained, continued function, spatially or formally, which is seemingly broken and destroyed upon death. Regardless, no matter what is likely or possible after death, nothing resolves the fact that we do not know and seemingly cannot know what is true after our brain is gone. No belief, whether dualist, materialist, spiritualist, religious, or otherwise, has any basis in ultimate truth. They are theories at best and wishes at worst. We simply do not know enough about the mind, about consciousness, and about the nature of reality to make claim of anything that might or might not come. The idea of death, therefore, is seemingly not the kind of paradox we can resolve, and that is why for so many of us, it is deeply unsettling and confounding. But perhaps like many paradoxes, we learn more not by resolving it, but by embracing it. By relinquishing some degree of resistance to death and the paradoxical reality of it, and the unknowable nature of existence more broadly, we come to recognize its obscurity not merely as an object of fear, but also an object of awe, a source of humility, perspective, and meaning. In the words of the author, J.J. Vanduleo, the mystery of life is not a problem to be solved, it is a reality to be experienced. Perhaps to paraphrase this quote, the paradox of death is not a problem to be solved, it is a reality not to be experienced. Our attention, our awareness, and our being can and should be directed here and now. If we take the paradox of death in the opposite direction, away from thought toward death and instead from death toward thought, we arrive at something like the following. If we can think about death, then we are alive right now. And if we are alive right now, conscious and self-aware, then we possess the capacity to do something that seemingly no other formations of the material of the universe can do, and, in all likeliness, we can only do for a little while, and will never be able to again. We currently each possess the capacity to think, to imagine, and to comprehend, to conceive of the very idea of our existence and mortality, and to poetically express wonders and meaning from it all. Death imbues life with meaning not merely because it adds urgency and scarcity to life, but also because it reminds us that, on the other side of each of our existences, there is an infinitude of possibilities we don't know and likely can never know. There is a possible infinite nothingness beyond us that, right now, for whatever reason, we can see, contemplate, and fear the hazy, indiscernible outline of, from the cliff of the somethingness that is our brief existence. Our relationship with our thoughts is, in many ways, our relationship with life. We largely experience what we think about what we experience, and we of course can only understand and think about what we know how to. Being able to both deal with and expand the limits of our thoughts is perhaps one of the most important and powerful things we can do. In my latest book of collected works, The Art of Living an Absurd Existence, I explore some of the most interesting, life-changing paradoxes and thought experiments in philosophy in order to help jolt you out of the familiar and monotonous and expand into new perspectives and a deeper appreciation for the mystery of everything. If you like this video, I think you'll really love the section, The Limits of Humanity, which is about the nature of knowledge, the patterns of perception, and the lapses of logic. The link to get your copy is in the description. If you've already gotten a copy or choose to get a copy, thank you so much. Your support truly means so much to me. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.